True. You know what? Lance and Timmy get married, and the next thing you know, the cat wants to blow them. That's how the cat knows they're married. I don't know. But it's always this fear, you know, fear of something. And the far right in Congress, the tough guys, but also the ones who say they're the big Christians. Could anything be less Christian? I'm sorry, religion is so retarded, but it is. No, I see people looking at me like, sorry, I'm sorry. Well, look, I was just at the newly opened Creationist Museum in Kentucky. If this doesn't say it all, there is now a Creationist Museum dedicated to the idea of, you know, creationism. And they have this exhibit of a giant dinosaur with a saddle on his back. Because the world is only 5,000 years old, so man and the dinosaur had to coexist. And of course, we rode them. A theory I thought laughable at the age of 8 when I saw it on the Flintstones. Ay, ay, ay. And you know what? The problem is that the people with the most ridiculous ideas are always the people who are most certain of them. These people know when life began. They know when your life begins and when it ends. Which is so silly, because you don't know. When the Pope died, Bush went over to Rome to his funeral, and I've never seen him happier. He was like a kid at the circus. He was very impressed by that funeral. And you know what? I don't blame him. That was an impressive funeral. That was a 9-hour funeral, went off without a hitch, and there was so many lighting cues and sound cues, and the body comes in and the body comes out, and this was going... You know what? I don't know if everyone in that Catholic church is gay, but they sure have enough to put on a show. Wow. There is a fine line between liturgy and Liberace in that Catholic church. But the Pope, there's another one who's pro-life as long as it's microscopic. They all think they know exactly when life begins, and that's why we can't have stem cell research, which actually would help real people. But they know for sure that life begins the moment the sperm hits the hoo-ha. Before the man can light a cigarette, there is a third person in that room. Before he can get up and get a towel, there is a third person in that room. Before the woman can even say, "What are you thinking?" What happened to men in this country? Seriously, did you see that story about a year ago out of Atlanta about this woman named Ashley Smith, who was kidnapped by this thug? And he was a thug. You know, he was on trial, and he took over the courtroom where they were trying him, shot 3 people in the courtroom, hijacked a car, shot another guy, kidnapped her, and she talked to him for 10 straight hours, and he literally waved a white flag. He was like, "Take me back to prison, just shut this bitch up." And I gotta say, I think that says it all about men and women, because women need someone to listen, and men need someone to shut the fuck up. I'm telling you, I think this country is so sexually frustrated, and that is very fertile ground for the Christian right to conflate morals and values with sex. Because if they didn't demonize sex, then they'd have to start thinking about what was really moral or really a value. The Republicans think sex is bad, because with them it always is. It is. I'm sorry, but they're just doughy, asexual, wonky white people. And if you had to have sex with them, it would be over in an excruciating 3 minutes. It's just... And from the headlines of the last year, I gathered the only sex they're really good at is gay sex. Really, Jeff Gannon in the White House press room, Representative Mark Foley, the Reverend Ted Haggard. I mean, that's a lot of gay when you're running against it in every election. And what is this campy fixation they have with all things Ronald Reagan? I mean, they talk about Reagan the way gay guys talk about Barbra Streisand. I think they want him on a stamp so they can lick his ass. I think they want to name airports after him so they can say, "I'm coming into Reagan." Whereas George Bush thinks that God speaks to him. And by the way, if God looked over the whole country, the whole world, and made George Bush president, how good is God? Seriously? But yes, he thinks God made him president, so he needs to have big ideas, like transforming the Middle East. And my favorite Bush appointee of all time, Dr. David Hager, who to me sums up everything we've gone through in the last 6.5 years, because Dr. David Hager was on the advisory board of the FDA, making decisions about women's health and reproductive services. And Dr. Hager was a super Christy evangelical gynecologist. It's kind of hard to find one of those, but these are the Bush people. Back in 1991, they found a black guy for the Supreme Court who wasn't that crazy about black people. So they're good, you know. And what had attracted the Bush team to Dr. Hager was that he and his wife had written a book suggesting that a remedy for women experiencing menstrual pain, reading scripture. How's that working out for you gals here in the Boston area? Good? But that's not the funny part. Listen to this. So after 30 years of marriage, Dr. David Hager and his wife get divorced, and she says that in the last few years of their marriage, he was anally raping her in her sleep. And she didn't even take the pledge. You know, just... Now, I assume she woke up at some point during the proceedings. I mean, if you can sleep through that, your ass is a little loose. I'm not going to lie about it. But that's not the funny part either. The funny part is that when confronted with this accusation, Dr. David Hager did not exactly deny it. She said his excuse was he missed. Which, okay, first of all, just sort of implies that it's okay to vaginally rape your wife in her sleep. That's cool. Honey, sleep. I'm just going to fuck you, please. I know you got a busy day tomorrow. I'm just going to fuck you. That's Christ would, you know. Stabbing your wife unexpectedly, unwantedly in the pussy in the middle of the night, that's okay. That's what the Christians would do. But in the ass, please. No, that's animals. Who would do that? A Hindu, a Jew, but not the Christians. No. And two, oh my God, he missed. I mean, the Bush people have been in power so long, they forgot how to lie. They're like zoo lions who don't know how to hunt anymore. He missed? So what you have here is a gynecologist claiming he cannot find his own wife's vagina. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Bush administration. And I thank you very much. You're a terrific audience. As I knew you would be.